Hey everybody, how's it going? Today we're going to be going over and showing you how to install the adapter to extended D-ring bumper mounts to Roadmaster Tow Bars here on our 2016 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited. So here's what our adapter looks like, and what this is going to do is it's going to allow you to attach a Roadmaster motorhome mounted tow bar. A motorhome mounted tow bar is one that installs into the hitch receiver on the motorhome and it gets stored there while not in use. A couple examples of those motorhome mounted tow bars is the Falcon 2, which is what we have here, the BlackHawk, the Sterling, and there's several others. And this is going to allow us to attach to D-ring bumper mounts welded onto our off-road Jeep bumpers. So a lot of Jeep owners like to install aftermarket bumpers on their Jeep for one reason or another, and a lot of them actually have these little welded on D-rings, and they like to use these for flat towing. Now the reason they use these for flat towing is because most of the times your base plate kits aren't going to fit with an aftermarket bumper. Therefore, it's kind of their only option. It is very common to tow with these D-rings, but I would like to point out you do need to message your manufacturer, check with them to make sure that these are rated for towing, because not all aftermarket bumpers allow you to flat tow with these. So it is very important that you do reach out to the bumper manufacturer and make sure you're safe to do so. So there's a couple criteria that we need to ensure our D-rings have in order for this to be compatible. Now, number one, this kit here is specifically designed for 1-inch thick D-rings. That's probably the most common, but there is another one that's sort of common as well, and that's a 7/8 inch thick D-ring, and in which case there is still an adapter that you can use for this, but this particular one won't work. So this one is specific to those 1-inch, and that's simply referring to the width of the D-ring. We also need to be sure that the hole is going to be either 7/8 of an inch diameter or 1-inch diameter, or if it's smaller than that, you could actually drill it out. But keep in mind, there is some liability with that with the bumper manufacturer. So those are the two things that we need to be sure of. This particular kit here that Roadmaster offers, now there's actually a couple different versions. We talked about there being one for the 7/8 inch thick shackles. There's also two different ones for the 1-inch. We have the standard ones, and these here are actually the extended length ones. So the extended length is referring to this portion here, and what this allows us for is some of the aftermarket bumpers have different shaped D-rings, and some of them extend out a little bit more, making them incompatible with the standard version. Therefore, this extended version there is going to be required for certain bumpers. Now, if you have the 1-inch thick D-rings, I recommend using this regardless because it's the most widely compatible. So that's why I like this one best. So in regards to hooking up to our Jeep, this is very, very easy. This is easier than most base plates. So basically what we're going to do is, on one side here, we're going to have a pin. It's got a little keeper there. We just pull that pin out. And then we're going to just simply pull this pin out. And you can see it just falls right out. And then our ears are going to drop to the side here, and then we're done. This is pretty much how it's going to be. We're just driving around town in our Jeep there. We would then just simply stow the tow bar on the motorhome, and these are going to stay attached, so you don't have to worry about storing these separately. And then when we're ready to hook up, we would obviously just do that same thing in reverse here. Now keep in mind, if you can't remove this pin here, you need to go ahead and break the tension free from your tow bar arms. That typically happens after you've been towing and the arms are locked out, or if you're not on level ground, but pretty much every tow bar has some sort of prescribed procedure for you to break that tension. But with that being said, just reinsert your pin, reinsert your clip, then you just need to hook up your other electrical connectors, your safety cables, and that's pretty much it. It's very simple and easy to use. So one potential issue you could run into, depending on which aftermarket bumper you have, is securing your safety chains. So your safety chains, you really want these hooked up to the frame of the vehicle, because if the bumper fails, you need something that's going to attach to the frame that's still going to keep your Jeep attached to the motorhome. Now, there's not a lot of bumpers that have any sort of provisions built in for the safety chain, so in order to attach it to the frame, here's what we did. What we did is we took one of these little quick link things. These are pretty common for towing, and we basically just installed it into this little bracket here, which wraps around to the frame. Now, I will say we did have to notch out this hole a little bit, and we did have to come at an angle here with our quick link, but we were able to get it installed in there and attached to the frame. And you can see the other end is just attached to the clevis hook for our safety cable. So you guys can get creative here. I found this was a great way that didn't require a lot of modifications, so that's what I used. But a lot of this is going to be variables depending on what particular bumper you have. but I think this is a good way for most setups. Most of the time these are going to be free from your bumper, so this is definitely what I recommend when you're hooking up your safety cables. So in regards to installation, this is very simple. It's definitely something you guys can do at home by yourselves. You will need a couple tools, but they're pretty common tools, so it's not something I don't think you guys are going to have just in a standard toolbox. Basically, we're just going to be replacing the arms on the end of our tow bar, and then we may or may not need to do any modifications to the D-rings on the Jeep bumper here. For our particular one, we had to install that spacer because we had a little bit too much slop with our pin there, but that's again going to depend on your specific setup and which particular bumper you have in regards to whether or not we need to do that. So we need to check fitment of our pins here in the D-ring shackles on our bumper. So we're going to take our pin here for our adapter. We're going to insert it into that opening. You can see it's a very loose and sloppy fit. We don't want to drive down the road like that. So in your kit here, you're going to get a little spacer adapter. So the spacer is going to be a perfect fit for that pin there. And then it's going to get installed inside the D-ring here. Now you may or may not need this adapter depending on the size of the hole in your shackle there. So if yours does have this loose of a fit, then we will need to go ahead and install this spacer. If yours is nice and tight, then you'd obviously just omit the spacer. But since we need to install the spacer, we will show you how to do that. So it's not going to push in. These are a very tight fit. And a lot of the times there's tons of paint and buildup, dirt and grime gets in there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to take a Dremel tool with the sanding wheel on it, and we're going to clean out the inside of that hole as best we can. And then we'll begin to install our adapter fitting. So go ahead and make sure you have proper eye and ear protection as well as a mask there, because you don't want to breathe in any of those fumes there or that dust and grime. So now we're just going to take our time here and clean out the inside of our hole. So now we can take our spacer here once we have our hole cleaned out. We'll go ahead and try to fit that in there. Ours is still a pretty tight fit here. I think we're going to actually have to hammer it in, which is okay. That's how it's designed to be. You don't really necessarily want them falling out. So we're going to take some spray lubricant here, just some general purpose spray lubricant. We're going to spray down this little spacer here. And then we're going to take our pin. We're going to insert it like so. Now we're going to take a hammer and we're going to begin gently tapping this into position here. So you want to be careful when you're starting out because you want it to go in as straight as possible there. So just take your time, make sure it's going in straight, and then once we do get it started in there and we know it's straight, now we can put a little bit more force into it. There we go, just like that. Now our sleeve is installed. So now we're going to be installing the new tow bar ends onto our tow bar. So what we're going to do is we're going to secure our tow bar. We have ours in a vise here. We're going to take a marker here, and we're going to mark the point on the inner arm that this rounded cap meets. So basically we're just going to take our paint marker or our marker there and just make a mark just like so. So we need to do that on both arms. So now we're going to remove the ends of our tow bar so we can install our new ones. So we're going to take a 1/4 inch socket and a 9/16 inch wrench, and we'll go ahead and loosen this nut. Go remove that and be careful of the nylon washers that are inside. Now we need to make sure that our round nut adapter hasn't moved at all. If it is, we need to go ahead and readjust it to that factory mark. But then we're going to take our adapter here. We're going to be installing that using the new hardware. Your shoulder bolt and nylon washer and lock nut that you used before, discard that. We're going to use all new hardware for this. But just simply line up your holes here and begin installing it. It is kind of hard to get that last nylon washer in there. But just take your time. Actually turn it this way, that's probably a smart idea. That way we can just push our bolt down like that. and then we'll simply secure it on the other side with our new lock nut. So now we're going to take the same tools that we used earlier to go ahead and tighten this connection back down. Now there isn't any sort of torque spec for this. So long as you have threads protruding through the lock nut, it's going to do its job. We want to make sure that we have some play, but not too much play. Unfortunately, a lot of this is just by feel because again, there's no torque specs. Go ahead and crank that down there. That's probably pretty tight. And I'm happy with that fit there. So once we have this one done, we'll just repeat that same process for our other arm. And that's going to do it today for our look and installation of the adapter to extended D-ring bumper mounts to Roadmaster Tow Bars here on our 2016 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited.